Okay, so now let's go over some of the basics for the IELTS listening, some basic tips. I'm not going to go over, there's a lot written here, and I'm not going to go over every single one of them. I'm going to highlight some of them. If you want to kind of take notes on some of the tips that you find are helpful, you can always just freeze or pause the lecture and look at the slide. You can pause the slide and look at it, and then you'll be able to kind of write down some of the tips. So I'm going to highlight some of the ones that I really like a lot that are helpful. One thing that's really important to do is you want to really use the time you have at the beginning of each section to be able to look over the answers. For example, what I mean by look over the questions, like at the beginning of section 1, they're going to give you, they always break it down. So like I said, there are 10 questions for each section. So in section 1, what they're going to do is they're going to split it in half, and they're going to first say something like, you now have some time to look at questions 1 to 5, right? And then they're going to stop the tape, and you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. And then after that, they're going to play the tape, and you answer questions 1 through 5 while the conversation or the lecture is happening. And then after that, they stop the tape. They come back, then a voice comes back on, and the voice will say, you now have some time to look at questions 6 through 10. Okay? And they do that for section 1, section 2, and section 3. When it comes time for section number 4, it goes all the way through, directly from question 31 to question 40. There is no break. There is no do half and then stop and then do the next half. So when you have that time in the beginning to look at the questions, it's really important that you really look at the questions really, really well. Okay? You want to make sure you read the instructions very carefully so you don't make any simple mistakes. But actually know the form that your answer needs to take. Do you need to write a number, a letter, a word? And also what's really great is to be able to look at the questions and to be able to decide what are you listening for. Well, I'm listening for somebody's name here. For number 4, I'm listening for a number. For number 3, I'm listening for them to say a color, right? So it's important to think about that. And also you want to think about synonyms and synonym language, especially for fill-the-blank questions and multiple choice questions, in fact. But you have to think about, well, what type of synonyms do I have to listen for here? So it's really important that you use those 30 seconds that you're given. Sometimes, maybe it's closer to 25 seconds, but that time that you're given to look over the questions before they start, you could really help yourself out a lot by doing that. All right. Now, while the listening is happening, right, while you're actually doing the listening, okay, keep in mind that your questions are going to follow the same sequence as the conversation. You want to make sure that you write something down. If you're not sure of what the answer is, put something down. Get something down on paper before you move on to the next question. Because if you don't get something down on paper, you're going to end up having a blank line there. And if it's a blank line, then it's wrong. Okay? Don't worry about writing your answers on the answer sheet right away. All right? Put your answers on the question booklet, and then at the end of the test, you'll have those 10 minutes to transfer your answers. Make a mental note right here that for the reading section, there is no time at the end of the test. For the reading section, you have to put your answers on the answer sheet right away. For the listening section, you have 10 minutes at the end to transfer your answers. All right? Some students ask me, well, can I just write the answer on the question booklet in my own language? Can I write it in French, or can I write it in Arabic? Can I write it in Chinese or Korean? Yeah, if you want to, sure. There's no rule that says You can't write whatever language you want on the question booklet. However, when you put the answer on the answer sheet, it must be in English and it must be spelled perfectly. Okay, you understand? All answers that eventually go on the answer sheet must be perfect. It must be spelled perfectly. After the listening is over, you want to make sure that you transfer your answers correctly. If you put a correct number, if you put a correct answer for the wrong question, like if you put the correct answer for number 4, but you make an accident of writing it for number 5, it's wrong, right? It's wrong. It's wrong. So I mean, you can't make those kind of really simple mistakes. Okay, can't do that. Now, what a lot of students don't realize and understand when it comes to IELTS listening is that they have a lot of traps, a lot of tricks to make you think the answer is something else. And this is probably really, really important that you understand, and you understand how to recognize these different tricks and traps that they use. All right, some of these tricks and traps are used more in section number 1 than in section number 4. Some of them are more used in section number 4. So, but any of these traps can be used anywhere. All right. And what I'm going to do as I'm going through the practice with you is I'm going to be helping you to understand how to recognize these traps and how to surpass them so that you can always get the right answer. All right, so here are our 8 standard traps that they use. Traps to make you get the wrong answer. One thing that they try to do on the IELTS exam is they try to trick you or fool you into believing that something else is the answer. All right? It's not just a straightforward listening test. They're trying to trick you. They're trying to fool you. They're trying to make you think the answer is something else. And I'm going to teach you how to not fall for the trick, fall for the trap. Oh, sentence reordering, synonym language, right? Self-correction is a trap. Delayed response, exact language is a trap. Giving multiple options is a trap. Something being positive or negative is a possible trap. So these are the things that you have to look out for or listen for when it comes to traps. And as we're going through the practice, I'm going to make a note to point out to you when these traps are happening, and so that you'll be able to learn how to recognize them. All right, here are some more tricks that they use to fool you, dealing with compound nouns, having you write words that have silent letters, which can be tricky, giving you words that are hard to spell, like definitely. Okay, so you should take some time and look through these tricks that they have here, because there is really, really important that you learn this. But these are some other kind of little tricks they do along the way. Number 8 is something they love to do, like when you get to section 3 and 4, where they give you a long time, right? They give you a long time before the answer to the first question, and sometimes they have a lot of time between giving answers, of giving answers like to number 31 and then to number 32. So they really, really try their best to trick you, and you have to be aware of that. Okay. All right. So let's stop right there, and then let's now go ahead and review the different question types that you have to face when you're doing the IELTS exam. Okay. So I'll talk to you soon.